Please go ahead and start. Asmal and Barakat. Please can you go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am, thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to welcome you all to today's session. It's day 2 of PTS 2026 and day 2 of the virtual session. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We're really excited to have you here for what promises to be an insightful and important conversation. My name is Amala Asmao, and I will be your host for today's session. Before calling on our speakers, I would like to show our gratitude to Lotus Bank, Sosa Polite Foods, Goatse Microinsurance Company for sponsoring the 3 days virtual session, and Devo Africa for being our health and wellness partners. Now I'll be introducing our first speaker. And our first topic is
that is part of 4 years because everybody has 4 food.
Before introducing our first speaker, I would like to say the topic first, which is every brain learns differently, understanding neurodiversity in today's world. Our first speaker's name is Miss Inne.
Okay, Barakat, can you please go ahead and continue the introduction, please?
So sorry about that. Please, before our first speaker would make our presentation, would like to take some time to appreciate our sponsors, the people who have supported us to make this year's PTS possible. Thank you so much to everyone for being here.
Please go ahead and start. Asmal and
Guided Path School, where we are provided with first-class education that caters to intellectual growth and physical well-being in a morally, spiritually, and culturally enriched environment, using modern teaching strategies and aids that propel learners across boundaries. Our core values are the high 5: faith, focus, fitness, friendship, and future.
And the name of my school is Guided Path Private School.
We have different programs to achieve this. At GPS, we are groomed to be well-rounded children. So, apart from core academics, we have time to play and do extracurricular activities, which include karate, young engineers, swimming, way with words, and many more.
My name is Aliu Asana. My best food is jollof rice and meat.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Guided Path School, and I am Mrs. Lasaki, the school director. We intend to take your precious jewels and educate them and also teach them sound Islamic values.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abimbola Yusuf, and I'm the mom of Amira and Abdulazim. GPS has been very impactful in the lives of children. They are very well-rounded in all aspects. Spiritually, they are very sound. Academically, they are very sound.
GPS, everything has a beneficial knowledge.
Okay, so I can't see here,
Can we proceed, ma'am?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, Miss Asma, would you like to proceed?
Can we introduce your speaker, please?
Okay, so I'll be introducing our first speaker for today, our keynote speaker, Mrs. Inne Oramasionwu is an educational impact executive, a board-certified cognitive specialist, and founder and CEO of Brain Ability Place, Lagos Pioneering Cognitive Skills Training Center. With over 19 years of experience, Nne has dedicated her career to transforming how students learn using comprehensive cognitive assessment and personalized, evidence-based brain training to help children and adults strengthen the skills behind learning itself. She's a certified interactive metronome provider, offering specialized training to pediatric and adult patients dealing with neurological conditions that impact cognitive, sensory, and motor functioning. She holds an MBA and brings advanced training in child psychology, autism spectrum disorder, dyslexia, and social impact strategy to her work. Let's jointly welcome Madam Mrs. Inne as she takes us through the first session for today. I'm sure we enjoyed the ones that we did yesterday, and we can't wait for Mrs. Inne to give us wonderful insight on the topic of today. Every brain learns differently. Understanding neurodiversity in today's world. Let's jointly work.
It's frozen.
Let's jointly welcome her by showing some emojis and reactions in the chat. Thank you, Mrs. Innes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Good evening, everyone. And I hope everybody can see my screen. So thank you so much for the warm welcome. And I would like to thank Ms. Amina and the team of Timeless Soul for giving me the honor of presenting this evening. I'll be speaking on neurodiversity, but before we get into the presentation, I want to start with a story. A few years ago, a mother sat across from me. She came to my office. She was exhausted. Her son was bright. She knew it. Her teachers half knew it. But every report card said some version of the same thing, not living up to potential. He was not lazy. He was not behind in intelligence. His brain simply processed information differently. And no one had ever mapped out how, not until we sat down and looked closely. So that meeting and many others after have shaped the way I think about every child I work with. So the question is never, what is wrong with this child? The real question is, how does this brain actually work? And how do we work with it instead of against it? That is what we'll be exploring today.
Hello, ma'am. Your slides are not showing yet. Do you want?
Oh, it's not showing yet? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, let me try again. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. It says I'm screen sharing, but it's not showing. Okay. Hold on a second. Stop it. Okay. Just give me a moment, please.
That's okay, ma'am.
Okay. Do I have the control to share my screen? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
you do, ma'am. Yes, you do. You do have the
Okay.
control. It was showing the mixture of your slides and the scripts and all that before now. So we can see your screen, but not the slides in full.
Okay. Okay. Okay, let me try again. Just a minute. Let's see. Okay. Mhm. Sorry about that. I was trying to see.
Alternatively, you could send it to me and then I can share from my end, if that's okay with you. If you feel comfortable with that, ma'am.
It's okay. I'm just trying to find where I put it again because it was showing. And then, okay. So sorry about that. Mhm. It's uploading, just a minute. Okay. All right, I think I better send this to you.
All right, I'll be waiting for it. You can just start while you're sending as well, so we don't take too much time.
Can you see it now? Is it sharing?
No, it's not sharing yet.
Okay. Let me just close some things. I think I have so many things open.
Yeah, we can see it now.
All right. Okay, it's better now, right?
Yes, ma'am, we can see it very
Okay.
clearly now. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that. Okay. So we're going to be talking about neurodiversity, how every brain learns differently. And I was getting into a story before I found out I wasn't sharing my screen. So I was saying a mother came to our office a few years ago, and she was quite exhausted. Her son was bright. She knew it. His teachers half knew it. but every report card said a version of the same thing, not living up to potential. The boy was not lazy, he was not behind in intelligence. His brain simply processed information differently, and no one had ever mapped out how, not until we sat and looked closely. So that meeting and many others have shaped the way I think about every child I work with. The question is never, what is wrong with this child? The real question is, how does this trying to reach that one student who seems completely detached? I would say you're in the right place. So today, we're not here to blame or fix or diagnose. It's about understanding first. And by the end of our time together, my hope is that you will walk away with at least 3 things. A clearer understanding of what neurodiversity actually means, permission to stop measuring your child against one narrow definition of doing well, and a few concrete things you can try starting this week at home or in your classroom. So what will we cover today? We're going to move through 5 areas. First, what neurodiversity is, why labels can help or hurt depending on how we use them, recognizing learning needs, how to recognize and respond to different learning needs, how to build environments where kids can thrive, and finally, what success really looks like when we stop measuring every child with the same ruler. I'll be pausing a couple of times during my presentation for quick chat prompts, because this is actually a conversation. I think we will do better if we hold it as a conversation, even virtually. So please don't be shy when I ask you to put something in the chat. Okay, before we define anything at all, I want to put a number in front of you. Researchers estimate roughly 1 in 5 people think differently. That's about 20% of the global population that is neurodivergent. That means in a typical classroom of, let's say, 25 students, at least 5 kids experience the world through a distinct neurological lens. Whether that is ADHD, autism, dyslexia, dyspraxia, dyscalculia, or other cognitive differences and sensory differences. So this is saying that neurodivergence is not a rare exception at all. It's a significant part of every school classroom and the family network. So if you're a parent or an educator, you already know how children, you know some children that are like this already, because statistically, you can't not know at least 1 in 5. And if you're a parent then feeling isolated, or a teacher wondering why your standard lesson plan is not landing with every student, remember, this is not a rare exception. It is a fundamental feature of the human condition. So let me just explain some terms here. If anyone is not familiar with the term dyspraxia, I know we know autism, dyslexia, ADHD. Dyspraxia is a difference in motor coordination, and it can show up as trouble with handwriting. And dyscalculia is a difference in numerical processing, in number pattern recognition. So we're going to start with what thinking differently actually means. So the word neurodiversity was actually coined by sociologist Judy Singer in the late 1990s. So it's relatively new. She's autistic. So let's look closely at the word itself, neuro, from the Greek word neuron, meaning nerve, or by extension, the nervous system / brain. Diversity, from the Latin word diversitas, meaning variety or difference. So word for word, neurodiversity means brain variety. The simple literal idea is that human brains are not all wired the same way. It recognizes neurological variation as a natural, valuable part of human diversity. I want to pause on this picture for a moment because I think it makes this whole idea clearer and it lands faster. So on the left here, we see a child, 15 minutes into a class assignment. His hand is raised up in the air, he's smiling, his pencil is ready. We see high enthusiasm, immediate engagement. All right. Different child, after 1 hour, head down, fully absorbed, working slowly and carefully through the same kind of task. So here we see deep concentration, intense focus, late into the task. Why? How do we explain this? It is simple. They come with different cognitive tools. So some brains come with rapid sprint tools, like quick recall, instant verbal output, and others come with long-haul endurance tools, deep analytical processing, intense hyperfocus. So here, neither child is doing better than the other. Neither one of them is lazy, and neither one is superior. They simply operate on different internal clocks. That's the whole idea of neurodiversity in this one picture. So, not better, not worse, different. Neurodiversity means every brain is different. Brains are wired to process the world in different ways. Human brains vary naturally in how they learn, how they process attention, sensory input, emotion, and communication. It's just as like as we accept natural variation in height, somebody can be short, the other person is tall, and handedness. Somebody is left-handed, the other person is right-handed. But for a long time, the old model has been treating any brain that didn't match a typical template as falling short. So in a traditional classroom that demands instant answers, the child who takes time to warm up, just like the child on the right, is often mislabeled as slow or not serious. Sometimes they are even called names, and we know such hurtful names that go around the classrooms. But in reality, that child is simply building the momentum required for deep work. So the neurodiversity model says there is a wide natural spectrum of wiring, not one correct configuration that everyone else is measured against. So I like to picture neurodiversity as a set of dials, not a single switch. A switch only gives you one setting for everything. On or off, working or not working. But a brain doesn't run in a single setting. A child's brain has settings across several dimensions. Let's look at some of them here. Attention. That's how easily focus is captured. Processing speed, how quickly information is taken in and acted on. Memory, how information is stored and retrieved. Language, how information is how sounds or words and meanings are processed. Sensory processing, how touch, sound, light, and movement register. So if we are to expand on a few of these, attention doesn't look the same for every child. Some brains focus in a straight line from start to finish. Others hyper-focus intensely on whatever interests them. So you see some children, they are hooked on video games, they are playing video games, they have all their attention on it. But then rapidly they switch the moment that that interest fades. Sensory processing works the same way. So bright fluorescent lights or a humming air conditioner might be invisible background noise to some of us here. But to a child whose sensory dial is set differently, it can be a genuine sensory chaos. Processing speed and memory show up together in what is often called executive function. So skills like planning and starting a task, holding instructions in working memory, and organizing multiple steps. So those develop on vastly different timelines from child to child. And we know communication is words. Some kids understand and assimilate an idea by talking it through aloud. Others get there through visual patterns, through movement, music, or art. Complete. It's just arrived by a different route. So every child has their own unique combination of settings on these dials, and recognizing where a child sits on these spectrums helps us build targeted support instead of blanket rules. There is no all dials turned to normal child. Let's just remember that. So what will this look like from day to day? A child who constantly fidgets. It's not necessarily not listening. Maybe movement is how the attention dial gets regulated. A child who is slow to write but quick to explain aloud isn't necessarily behind in knowledge. Maybe processing speed or motor planning may just run differently than language. A child who struggles to express themselves fluently in English is not automatically less intelligent. For many of our children, English isn't the first language their brain learns to think in. So struggling to find the English word for something they understand perfectly well in their native language is a language processing pattern. It's not a measure of how smart that child is. All right, so time for you to do some work now. We'll take a little pause. I want you to drop into the chat, please, one thing you've noticed about how your child or student than you expected. Can you just drop that into the chat quickly, please? I have to see my chart. Are you guys dropping anything in the chat?
People, where are you?
One thing you've noticed about how your child or student takes in information differently than you expected. Okay, I see somebody says he has sort of photographic memory. My daughter likes to touch things when she's communicating. For language skills, spontaneous processing. For calculative skills, slow processing. executive function issues, not able to finish a task before going into another. Good. Thank you all who have dropped something in the chat. We'll just continue. And I hope next time some other people will oblige. Somebody says, I have a child that is slow to process, but when she gets it, she can explain or pass it well. Great. Slow, he forgets things easily, audiobooks rather than reading, seeing things differently. Okay, great. Thank you so much. So this actually is what we're talking about, neurodiversity. Every child's brain does things differently. So now moving on beyond labels and limitations. It brings me to something I care about deeply. The difference between a label as a verdict and a label as a map. So oftentimes, behaviors stemming from ADHD or sensory dysregulation like autism are often interpreted as stubbornness, disobedience, laziness, or lack of home training. But let's look at a few common misconceptions side by side with a more accurate way to reframe. So lazy would now become a possible processing speed gap. Won't sit still or doesn't listen becomes needs movement to actually focus. Not serious becomes may need a different sensory channel to absorb information. Not smart enough becomes a skill gap, not an intelligence limit. So I want to leave you with one sentence that is very important, because if you remember nothing else from today, please remember this. It's a skill gap, not an intelligence problem. What do we mean by this? Think back to the 4 reframes we just looked at. The lazy, won't sit still, doesn't listen, not smart enough. Every one of them sounds on the surface like a judgment on the whole child. Oh, guilty, autistic, dyslexia. But underneath each one is a specific skill with a name. Processing speed, movement regulation, auditory filtering, task-specific mastery. Not a verdict on how smart the child is, a skill, not the intelligence. That's the real distinction. Intelligence sounds like a ceiling. A skill is narrow and buildable, like a muscle. Let's remember the brain is a muscle. When we call something a disorder, it tends to land as a fixed judgment on the whole person. But when we describe it instead as a point on a neurological spectrum, we are naming one specific measurable trait, which is exactly what makes it something a child can be supported in, a child can practice and grow. And that's how we unlock new pathways for learning and growth. So when we stop viewing these differences as broken machines and start seeing them as standard human variation, everything changes. Now, every learning profile that comes with a challenge also comes with strengths, often directly connected to the same wiring. For example, slower processing speed often comes with remarkable thoroughness when given the time needed. So that child that was taking his time, being slow, I bet you he's doing real great work. He's slow, but he is thorough. Difficulty filtering sensory input often comes with noticing details in a room that everyone else missed entirely. Many of us are in a hurry. We don't take things in. So it can help to make this concrete by profile. These are broad patterns and not a checklist for any one child. So when a child receives a diagnosis, society very quickly hands them a list of weaknesses. The goal is not to reduce any child to a label. Notice that every neurological profile carries equivalent cognitive strengths. The wiring behind a challenge is often the same wiring behind a genuine strength. Let's look at some of these profiles. The ADHD profile. Yes, we know impulse control can be tough, but ADHD brains bring exceptional problem-solving skills under pressure. They have passion-driven energy. They think out of the box and have out-of-the-box creativity. The autistic profile. Social nuances, yes, may require explicit teaching, but the autistic brain offers deep systematic thinking, remarkable pattern recognition, incredible attention to detail, and passion for mastery. In the dyslexic profile, written decoding and reading takes extra effort, but individuals with dyslexia excel 3D spatial reasoning. They see the big picture, so the big picture story structure and narrative comprehension. They have entrepreneurial intuition, and they are great problem solvers. Moving on, recognizing and supporting different learning needs. So how do we actually notice these differences in the 1 in 5 sitting in our homes or classrooms without needing a clinical degree to do it? So this section is about practical insight. It's not a diagnosis. So here are a few patterns that are worth paying attention to at home or even in school as a starting point for curiosity. You know, none of these mean anything definitive on their own, but we're just watching out for pattern that repeats across weeks. So first of all, is that maybe there is a big gap between spoken and written performance. The child speaks so well, but when you ask them to write, they can't, or they struggle with it. Consistent difficulty with multi-step instructions. So once the instruction passes to do this and do that, it's a challenge. Strong performance in one domain, real struggle in a related. Is very good at mental, serious challenges with math word problems in the same math exam. So it's the same subject, it's the same child, but there are two completely different skills underneath this. So number sense is on one side, reading comprehension on the other. And to a teacher marking the script, it looks like inconsistent performance, maybe even carelessness, but it's really two separate dials, you know, from earlier. So it's memory and it's language doing very different work. So let's pause again. There's a chance for those who didn't drop anything. Drop into the chat, please. Which of the 3 patterns we just covered feels most familiar in your child or a student in your classroom or even in yourself? So let me go back to these are the patterns. So drop in the chat if you recognize any one of these patterns in your child or student or somebody you know or yourself. Let's give 1 minute. Okay. Number 2, number 3. Okay. So consistent difficulty with multi-step instructions, 1 and 2, a big gap between spoken and written performance. All right, great. So, good. Okay. Okay, so this is good because noticing is not diagnosing. You are allowed to be curious about the pattern without having it all figured out immediately. That curiosity followed by the right support is often the turning point, leading to supporting somebody with a learning difference. So talking about supporting different learning needs, I love this quote from educator Dr. Ignacio Estrada. He says, if a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. Let that sink in for a minute. And you see that it puts the responsibility back on us adults to adapt our teaching and parenting strategies and approaches so they match how a child's unique brain processes information, rather than expecting the 7-year-old or the 14-year-old to re-engineer their whole neurology. Yesterday, actually, when Dr. Sonia was presenting her session, she said something that caught my attention. She said she used to shout at her children a lot. But then her daughter said to her, "Mommy, I can't hear you when you shout." So she said she had to do a self-check. She said she's been shouting and raising her blood pressure. And meanwhile, this child she's trying to correct and teach is not even learning. And that's because she can't learn that way. She can't learn through shouting. So Dr. Sena said she had to self-adjust and start speaking more calmly. And that's how her children were able to understand and learn and get corrected. So this is what this quote is saying. If a child can't learn the way we teach, maybe we should teach the way they learn. So for the educators on the call, or even for us, for parents, here's what this looks like in practice, using the same lesson delivered 3 different ways. So written and verbal. A student can stare at written instructions and freeze, but then understand perfectly when you say the exact same thing aloud. Then individual and paired. Some kids process better working alone with no social pressure. Others need to talk a concept through with their partner before it actually clicks. So same lesson, but 2 different entryways. Then still and movement-based. The same worksheet done sitting down might take twice as long as it will take a student who likes to pace and use manipulatives, or who likes to work it out standing at a whiteboard. So it's just about building more than one way and watching which one each student reaches for, without having to wait for a diagnosis or formal profile. Now, moving on to our section 4, creating environments where every child can thrive. So understanding a child's wiring only matters if it changes the environment around them. So let's look at home, school, and community. So when a child is melting down or disengaging, they are usually suffering from cognitive or sensory overload and fatigue. In both homes and classrooms, we can lower environmental friction by designing calm, structured spaces with clear expectations. This way, we reduce cognitive fatigue and allow children to focus on learning. Because behavior is almost always a reaction to environment. So at home, maybe you can create predictable routines and pair it with real choice in order to reduce resistance and build a sense of control. The child feels like they're in control of what they are doing. At school, a child can be allowed flexible ways to show understanding, oral, project-based, or extended time for written tests. Somebody dropped there that, text to speech, audio. So those are flexible ways to show understanding and to learn. And then in the community, community spaces for sports, for arts, for hands-on programs can reward completely different sets of skills. So a child who has been labeled difficult in one environment can be genuinely excellent in another. So let's get more concrete with some of these practical support strategies. So one, structure the day. So don't just say clean your room, study for history. For a child who doesn't know where to start, that is, you're just setting yourself and him or her up, for a tough time. So you can use visual checklists, graphic organizers, and visual timers. These support working memory. So a simple visual schedule can dramatically reduce anxiety on an unpredictable day. So it can be 3 or 4 picture or word cards showing what's next. I have a relative, a lady, she has a child with autism. And this is, if you go into their home, you see a lot of labels, cards all over the place, it's cues for the child. This is what you do after this and that. And the girl is calm. Okay, then offer multiple modalities. Allow audiobooks. That's what we were just talking about. And voice to text alongside traditional reading. People with dyslexia, this is very good for them. Allow students to demonstrate learning through voice recordings, through video presentations or hands-on models alongside traditional essays. One of my sons, when he was young, if you ask him to do an assignment, he's always project-based. It's no wonder he's an engineer today. He will always want to explain things through projects. And he had an overly active brain as well. And then protect emotional safety. So praise strategy, effort, and self-advocacy rather than speed, perfection, or conformity. Adjust sensory input. So normalize noise canceling headphones, fidget supports. Fidget supports could be something like, stress balls for children who like to fidget a lot, or they're drumming on the table, distracting everybody else. So they dissipate that energy through squeezing a stress ball. Then movement breaks, quiet zones for anyone who needs them. And this helps to regulate nervous system arousal. Now, I want to close with the piece that I think matters most. So this section, long after today's session is over, and that is achievement looks different for every child. Achievement looks different for every child. So many of us, inherited the narrow definition of a successful childhood. Good grades, an Ivy League college, a certain kind of profession waiting for us. So common entrance, WAEC, NECO, IGCSE, JAMB, SATs, each one is treated as the gateway to a secure future. But for a neurodivergent child, holding tightly to that one narrow pipeline turns every exam season into a comparison that they are set up to lose. I know why this pipeline carries so much weight in our society. For a lot of families, these exams are not just school milestones. They feel like the only road to security, to a good job, to a life that's taken care of. The pressure is real, and I'm not saying you should ignore it. What I am saying is that a child who doesn't move smoothly through that exact pipeline hasn't lost their future. They have not lost their future. They may just need a different route to reach the same security. And that's exactly what we're talking about and what this next slide is about. Achievement looks different for every child. So let's look at this list here for a second. We have academics, trades, sciences, the arts, entrepreneurship, caregiving, even paths not yet imagined. Every one of these is a full life. None of them is a consolation prize for a kid who could not make it in a traditional classroom. So think back to the strengths we named earlier. The child with ADHD, with the rapid problem-solving skills, can later become a crisis leader as an adult. The systematic thinking in the child with autism can become mastery in a field that everyone else finds tedious. The child with dyslexia, with the big picture thinking, can become the entrepreneur who sees what a spreadsheet cannot show you. So none of that shows up on a report when they are 8 years old or 13. It shows up 10 or 20 years later. That is, if the adults around the child protected the wiring instead of trying to grind it down to match everyone else's. So the measure that matters is not whether they followed the expected path. It is whether they got to build a life that uses their unique brain well. Did they get to build a life that uses their unique brain well? Because success is not about fitting into a narrow, standardized mold. It's about becoming the fullest, healthiest version of oneself. You know that mother I told you about at the start? Her son is doing really well today. Not because he became a different kind of learner, but because the adults around him finally understood the kind of learner that he already was. The boy is an individual with autism. He's graduated community college. He lives by himself, has a job. He's very happy. The parents are so proud of him. So that's success, measured by on his own terms. Did he get to build a life that used his unique brain well? Yes, he did. So here's another important thing to take from today. Curiosity before judgment. So the next time something looks like laziness or defiance or not trying hard enough, pause and ask what the behavior might actually be telling you about how the brain is working. Every brain here is running its own unique configuration. As we're all listening to this session, we are synthesizing this topic in our own different ways, meaning that each one is different. But remember, different is not less. Please put that in the chat. I think it's worth putting in the chat. Different is not less. Let's put it there. Difference is not less. And put whichever kind of emoji you would like to go with it. Yes, I love it. Hearts, thumbs up. Different is not less. Yes. More elbow grease. Different is not less. I love it. Flowers, hearts. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful audience. Thank you. So on that note, I want to thank you for advocating for every unique mind. And I would like to open it up for questions now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Ine, for this wonderful speech. If there is anything I'm taking away from this wonderful speech, is the fact what she mentioned last. Difference is not less, and that we should know that it is a skill gap, not an intelligence problem. So I'd like every other person to share in the chat box what they are taking away from this her amazing speech that Mrs. Ine just delivered. Thank you so much again for that. So we'll be taking questions. If you have questions, you could raise your hand or use the chat box. And while we are doing that, we'll also be taking some moment to appreciate the people who have made this year's PTS a successful one, who has made it possible for us to be here, the sponsors, the people behind supporting this year's PTS. We'll be taking some moment to appreciate them.
Welcome to Debo Africa, modern healthcare built by women for women. We get it. Life can be hectic and unpredictable. We know what it's like to push back a much needed health check for months because of family or work, or because you just haven't found the right healthcare providers. Debo Africa was founded by African women because we understand the unique needs and challenges they face, and we believe that all African women deserve access to better healthcare, no matter who we are. With our virtual medical consultations, we have bridged the gap between your busy life and your healthcare. At Debo Africa, you can easily access expert medical advice from our community of Debo doctors whenever you need it, without compromising on the quality of care. Join us on our mission to empower African women and transform healthcare.
100 naira, 200 naira, 300 naira. Mama Nkechi, oya take.
Wetin I wan carry 300 naira do?
Mama Nkechi, every day me and you go comot house go hustle for market. If anything do us, who go dey our back?
So, na 300 naira one day our back.
You never hear of Goxi Microinsurance, the first licensed specialized microinsurance company for Nigeria, where they give cheap insurance cover with as low as 300 naira. Goxi Microinsurance get insurance products like Goxi Cooperative Welfare Scheme, Goxi My Business, Goxi Agric Loan Protection, and others wey go give us peace of mind.
Oya, make we start now.
Goxi Microinsurance no dey give loan, but we go help you carry your wahala with our insurance package.
For more information, make you visit them office for Edward and Valeria Plaza, 107 Obafemi Awolowo Way, Ikeja, or make you call 0802-314-0939 and 0815-287-9591. Terms and conditions dey. Goxi Microinsurance. Small money.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you to Lotus Bank, to Sosa by Right Foods, Goxi Microinsurance Company, and Debo Africa for supporting us this year. So, okay, I've seen some questions in the chat. If you'd like to ask verbally, you could raise your hand and we would call on you. Okay, we have a hand raised already. Okay, ma'am, please unmute and go on with your question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Can I go on? Okay, all right. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that insightful conversation. So my question is this: how else can a parent deal with the children, despite you have ways of talking to them, you have tried to not just try a number of ways. So let me just even list them. So you have, in terms of encouraging them to do their chores, right? You have maybe printed out, let's say for a particular room, okay, maybe you don't even know what to do. These are A, B, C, D things you need to do when you wake up, do this. You have talked to them. You're not really seeing action. You have shouted, you have scolded, but you're not seeing that they're taking that responsibility. They're stepping up to hone it. And, it's ordinarily just result in you shouting, frustrated. So how else can a parent deal that would make these children, have this mindset of ownership and be responsible to clean up their mess? Because I do not want to raise children where someone will have to clean up after them. I'm just struggling. I'm just trying to be vulnerable here, and maybe everybody's also, maybe some other people share the same view with me. How do you make them do what they need to do? I've tried reward system. It's more like they're not waiting for the reward. Like, okay, when I do it, I get it. So I'm just frustrated. I just need to know what else I can do to make them, just take it and just get it done. Reward or no reward, just do it. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so
All right, ma'am. Would you like to to answer that first or take the questions together?
okay, I can answer this one because I don't think it's related. The other one is about the teacher, right? About
Okay,
time
ma'am.
management. Right. Okay, so before I answer, let me ask you, the children you're talking about, are they neurodivergent or they're on the... Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can.
Yes. So you said children.
Yes. So, okay, maybe I can just deal with age range, teenagers, they're just teenagers, and then less than teenagers. So that's the bracket age range, which ideally
Okay,
they should be able to, take ownership
to
of their
do things.
responsibilities. Yes.
Yes, and they should. They should be able to take care. So, but what I was asking you is, are they different learners? Do they learn differently? Are they different
Yes.
thinkers?
Yes, they have different way of learning. So there is
Okay.
one who just learn normally. There is one who loves to, you have to role play, you have to basically role play, right? You have to relate it with things so that it helps them remember. And then the third learns by challenging, by competition. So when he sees that, if I'm slacking, this other person is learning more than me. So if he sees himself in such situation, he picks up. So I have that variant level of learning.
Learning. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So so you can't use the same yardstick for each one of them. Like you have just explained, they learn all differently. So the one that is a teenager is old enough to do things for themselves. Okay, so if a child is learning differently, first of all, I think it is important to explain to them why they are learning differently, so they actually understand what is going on with them. And then, like I use the what Dr. Sonia said, you have to find how to approach that child different from how you speak with the other ones. Okay, so but knowing that a child is neurodivergent does not take away discipline. That's not what we are advocating here at all. So the child you still have to have boundaries for each child. A child still needs boundaries, and you have to set the boundaries clearly. Yes, you have rewards, but they're also sticks. They say carrot or sticks. That's how it goes together. If you do this, yes, you get your carrot. But if you don't do well, you get a stick. A stick is not that you are going to beat them with a stick, but it's like there's a timeout or there is, a consequence for that kind of behavior. And so they need to understand that. So, but the thing is that you have to speak with each child on the level that they can understand it, not lumping them together and shouting at all of them together, because there are children who, when you shout, they don't hear, they just tune off. And there are those that when you talk gently to them, they think you're playing. So as their mother, you know your child, you know your children, you know what works for each one. So that's what I would actually, well, I wouldn't say advice, that's my suggestion, really. So maybe you can try that, but let them know clearly that every behavior has a consequence. I think that is important. Children need boundaries. That is also very important. Does that answer your question somehow?
Yes, it does, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so
Okay,
let's
next
take the
question.
question in the chat. The person is asking that, as a teacher, how can we manage this diversity of our students with the pressure of time management and curriculum targets or time limits?
Okay, yes, that is a big, a real, I would say, you know, like the example I gave, start with the simple ones. Like when you are teaching something, you are saying it and you are writing it. So some children learn visually, others learn from auditory. So when you say something and you write it down, you are actually speaking to two groups of children at the same time. So just start with things that you are already doing, but instead of doing it only just one way, try to encourage other modalities. If you ask children, okay, do a project. I want you to do a project about, or I want you to do an assignment, write this. Maybe the child who likes to do hands-on can build something and bring to school and explain it. Okay, so it's not really that you are going to go out of your way to do another lesson plan. No, because we understand the constraints. So you start with the lowest cost, the lowest effort strategies. A visual schedule is important. Offering an answer verbally as well as writing it. Allowing movement breaks sometimes, because that one benefits every child. So for those who have meltdowns, who have sensory overload and all that, when you say, okay, we're going to have a movement break, everybody get up, stretch, or touch your toes and things like that. You know, children will love that. But at the same time, you are doing this for the child who has cognitive overload or sensory overload. So don't go out of your way to start incorporating. If you know what you're already doing, you can just vary it in a way that includes every child still. Does that answer the question?
All right, thank you so much, ma'am. And I will be taking the last question by Vivo Y17. Please, you can go on mute and go on with the question.
Yeah, maybe that question has been answered already. Can we move on to
All right, okay. So thank you so much once again, Mrs. Inne, for spending your evening with us today. I'm sure that parents would be living here, not as they came here. Thank you so much once again. We really appreciate
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Your time. All right. So quickly, we'll be moving on to the next thing on the agenda. And I'm sure we enjoyed the workshop yesterday. Yeah, that is not the end for today's session. We still have another workshop. We have a workshop for you. And I will be handing over to my partner here, Ms. Asmao, to go on and introduce our facilitator for the workshop. We can't hear you.
Martha, can you go ahead and just take the introduction?
Okay. I'll be introducing Mrs. Doyinsola Jawandu Adebomehin. She's a Montessori educator, a behavioral analyst, a counselor, and an NLP master practitioner. Doyinsola, popularly known as Just Like the Coconuts, is passionate about special needs, mental health, and child development. With close to 2 decades of experience and counting, her name resonates with professionalism in Montessori, special education, and mental health sectors. Doyinsola works with individuals and organizations to dismantle undesired behaviors, install desired behaviors, and uphold the wholesome development and mental health of all. Her favorite tasks include carrying out diagnostic and developmental assessments and crafting implementable programs to promote development for both the typical and atypical. Kindly join me in welcoming Mrs. Adebomehin Jawandu. We are so glad to have you here, and she will be taking us through how to tell the difference between defiance, delay, and learning difference. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, ma'am.
Steady J, you're so muted, ma'am.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and
All
clear.
right.
Thank you
Sorry,
very much.
I had started speaking. Okay, can you see my screen too?
Yes, ma'am, you can see it.
Great. All right. Okay. Thank you, Miss Ne Oramasion. I'm sorry. I've been trying to pronounce your surname
Thank
for a
you.
bit. How's the proper
Thank
way to
you.
pronounce it?
Oramasionwu.
Okay, Oramasion. All right. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Well done. So you
Same
have done
here.
quite a bit of you've laid the some tiles for me, and that's also in addition to what Miss Sonia did earlier on yesterday. And I'm very honored to be here. Anything that has to do with helping every child in particular get the opportunity to be the best of themselves, I like to be there. And thank you, Miss Amina, for the invitation as well. All right, so this evening, the task given to me is to tell the difference between defiance, delay, and learning difference. And in the course of my presentation, I think you'll be able to figure out why Miss Amina asked me to do this. So I'll go. I'm going to ask you to think of a moment, a recent one, when your child pushed back. You know, when you gave an instruction and somehow they didn't follow through on the instruction that you gave. Now, when I say child here, I'm talking about you as a parent, you as a caregiver, or you as a teacher. You know, either way, it works very well. So, quickly, what did you assume? What did you assume in that moment? Did you think they're being defiant? Did you think there was a delay? Did you think there was something else? You know, any other thing? Is there anybody who will share with us quickly in 30 seconds? Anybody at all? Okay. Thank you, Rihanna. Rihanna says defiance. Do you want to tell us what that was? Are you able to unmute, or can she be assisted, please? Yes, but we want to have an idea of the instance. What happened at that point in time that you're thinking was defiance?
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am. You're
It's
welcome.
my Rihanna Zlatimbo. So I have a 7-year-old princess, and she's she's strong-willed. She has a mind of ours, and she sees me as been trying to control her. So most times, really, it's not just a time. Most times, when I try to give her particular instructions, like she's in charge of the chores of the plates. She washes the plates in the house, most especially in the evening time. So when I asked her to to wash her plates, she would do as if she did not hear me. She would do as if she did not hear. Then she will now sneak and go, and I'll just keep mute and not say anything. So I feel that she's trying to defy that instruction, wanting to do it in her own way.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. We'll figure out along the line if your diagnosis, so to speak, is in order, or if you need to kind of like change it along the line. All right. So, as parents, teachers, or caregivers, we have had children in our care who, when we ask them to do things, they either don't do it, or they take forever to do it, or they do exactly the opposite of what it was that we have asked them to do. And a number of times, from my experience in dealing with parents and teachers, working with them rather, I find that one word that usually comes around is defiance. You know, that child is too stubborn. They don't want to do the work. They don't listen because they don't want to. You know, they know other things they want to do. And we always just jump to defiance. Yes, sometimes it is defiance, but other times it could be any other thing. It could be defiance, it could be a delay, it could be a learning difference, you know, a learning disorder, so to speak, where the child has either not come across that concept that you're asking them to do, or the child has not fully mastered it, and so they will tend to make certain mistakes. And there are other times as well when it's actually from our own end because we have not been clear on what it is that we want it to be. So either way, to a person who has not really taken their time to, you know, learn about this, they all look the same. They're all interchangeable. They appear to be synonyms of one another, but they really are not. From our own experience as professionals who work with children with different learning styles and all of that, it is extremely important that the label is right, because if you misdiagnose, whatever you misdiagnose, you will mistreat. It's just a straight up thing. So, the reason why I'm here speaking about this is because I'm a behavior analyst and I'm a Montessori directress. And in my environment in the Montessori classroom, we do practice inclusion where children with different um, learning styles and different situations come into the environment and get their learning as along with their peers, even though certain things may either be adapted for them or may be modified as the case may be. So when we're talking about it, we need to identify what the child is doing, and so that we can give a proper meaning to it. So for us to be able to do that, we're going to quickly learn about the 3Ds. In this instance, the 3Ds are defiance, delay, and learning differences. And how do you know when which is which? How do you know how to apply what? When it's a case of defiance and it's something that the child has been exposed to, something that the child is able to do because they have done it in the past that you are aware of or that somebody else is aware of, and that they're able to understand the request because you have used that term before or somebody else has, so there's an understanding of it. But then, in spite of all that, the child does not comply with what it is that is being said to them. So what is in question in this instance is not the child's understanding, it is the child's response, which is the child's behavior. Why have they not responded? Why have they not done it? Sometimes it's a function of escape. They probably want to do other things at that point in time, or attention, they're not concentrating, or even control. The second D that we're taking right now is the delay. And this is it's not that the child is not able to do it, the child is able to do it, but they are still understanding it. So they may take a while before they're able to do it. And in the process of taking a while, they also will most likely make certain mistakes that will, you know, affect the results that they present. And in this instance, the challenge is more of timeline. Because if you gave that child who is slowly developing it, even if they've been through the process, but they haven't done it repeatedly, the 10,000 hour rule that they say, then if you were to give them time, then they most likely will get it right. Or in some instances, if you were to chunk it, and then they're able to do one part right and you help them, it will now help them concentrate on what was missing, and then they would most likely get to the finish line faster. And the third one is the learning difference. That is closer to what Miss Nne has spoken about all evening, about how the brain processes it. So you say go, and what they have heard is come. You know, that's not a direct interpretation or an example, but it's something like that because it really, really does happen. And in the instance that this is what we're dealing with, because it has to do with the wiring of the brain, a neural thing, you can't really change that just like that. That is going to take a lot of specialized attention for you to be able to, adjust that. And so what we need to do in this instance is accommodation and to also give specialized instructions. And you might in that instance have to give a little bit more time, but usually that's not the case. And I'll give you an example. I once had a colleague. She was working in my environment. She came as a facilitator to the children on inclusion within the classroom, and she had this defiance situation where she almost would argue, not necessarily verbally, about whatever she was asked to do, but she would most likely not do it because she always appeared to have a problem with it. Once it was an instruction, I found her that she was always balking and then would have situations. So what I started to do in that instance was to tell her the opposite. If I wanted her to sit down, I'd ask her to stand up. And she'd go, why are you asking me to sit down? What do you want? And then she'll stand up. It took a while for me to tell her, but I did that for a bit because we needed to continue to move. And then when she got comfortable with me, I explained what was happening to her and what I had been doing. She started to pay attention and she started to build on it to make it better. So why is it important for us to be able to make these distinctions properly? Because they need different responses. If it is defiance, we're able to identify that the child knows what to do. The child understands what we're asking them to do. They're able to do it as well. Then it's definitely defiance. And what they need at that point in time is not more time, because it doesn't matter how much more time you give to them, they will not do it, most likely. So what they need in that instance is a discipline. Discipline in this case is not whacking them over the head with a stick. No, discipline is putting consequences in place. And like I said, Miss Ne already helped me because she did say that it's not always about the cane. Sometimes it's the reward, other times it's the consequences. Either way, the reward will bring about is part of the consequence. So you're either giving them something that makes them happy, so they repeat the behavior, or you're doing something to kind of like stump them so that either they don't want that thing or they want that thing, and so they will pay attention and do what it is that you want. In the situation that what you identify is a delay, then what they need is not you speeding them up or you talking at them or anything. It's you giving them the instruction, and then you're patient with them, and then you're also there to support them. And like I said earlier, in this instance, what you might have to do is you might have to chunk it down and and take it in little bits. So sometimes you just encourage them to finish up, and where you find that they're struggling to finish up, then you provide that support. You shouldn't just let it stop there and say, okay, oh, don't worry, let's move on. No, because that way they have not learned any new thing. They have not moved on to the next step, so that if you presented that thing to them the next time, they most likely will still have that delay, and they'll get stumped at that point where they did earlier. And then the third one is when if you're able to identify that it's a learning difference, then what you need to do is, like I said earlier, you have accommodation and then specialized instructions, and the specialized instruction will come from observing them, identifying what the function of what they're doing is, so that you can put the next proper step into place. So there's that tag there that once you apply the wrong fix long enough, you will build a child who believes that they're lazy, stupid, or bad. And aside from the fact that none of that was ever true, it will always affect the results that you get in real time when you work with a child. So what we're going to do now is we're going to try to look beneath the behavior. What exactly could it be? Behavior in behavior analysis applied ABA is communication, and even not in ABA, behavior generally is communication. It's giving you feedback about either how the person understood what you were saying, or how they feel about what you said, or how they're able to do what it is that you've asked them to do. And it's very, very important that you don't just label the what you see, what you think you're seeing. You need to look well to identify it before you put a label to it, because like I said, the diagnosis will determine the treatment that you give it. So what are the things that may be affecting the feedback that you get when you give the instruction? It could be emotional. The child could be, they could be kind of like doubtful about their ability to do it, and they could be anxious about it. They could be ashamed from repeated failure and many other things. Or they could even be afraid of getting it wrong, and many other things. Another thing is cognitive. Cognitive is the ability to reach within them to get that information that you want at that particular point in time. If they're tired, it's going to affect it. If they are anxious, it's going to affect it. If there are many things that can affect it, and it's definitely tugging at their ability to pay attention at that particular point in time. Another thing that could bring about the behavior that you're seeing is it could be developmental. That task or that request that you made, are they really able to understand it? So and a good example is when we start teaching uh, a child who is about 4 5 years old the multiplication table. Do they really understand what the multiplication table is? you know if you are doing skip counting, it's a step two, but a lot of us will skip and would skip counting to go straight to 2 times 1, to 2 times 2, 4. That is just cramming. They do not understand how we attained the multiplication we're doing. And so when it gets to the point where they have to apply it, they are not able to do it. And that's why you find in some instances a child sees 2 times 7 and they have to start all the way from 2 times 1, 2 times 2, because they're not yet at that age where they can conceptualize what 2 times 1 is. Sometimes a child goes ahead of their age, and other times they just say, so we need to be careful. It could be developmental. And it could also be environmental. What is in the environment? Is there certain destructions in the environment? Are there things that make them uncomfortable? Are there some loose cables that sparked earlier and the child is not able to focus on what it is, and they're looking at the cable, in the fear that it might spark again? So whatever you see, try to identify which department it belongs to and what could be bringing it on. That way you'll be able to do a lot. And how do you now go about this? What I will advise is that you ask certain questions. When you see a behavior or a situation with your child, you should ask, what is the child getting from that behavior? Are they getting to escape? Are they getting some accolade? Are they getting, anything at all? And then, as a Montessori, as in my classroom, another question that I would ask is, this child that you're asking this question and you're not getting the results that you want, have they been taught? Have they been given the right opportunity? Have they repeated it enough so that they're able to respond as spontaneously as you want them to? So it's not for us as the adults in the environment to say, oh, you just didn't, he just does not respond. Why didn't you respond to it? It is, why are you not able to respond to it? Those are some of the questions that we need to be asking. And where, in order for us to identify sometimes rather, there are signs that we see, but we do not pay attention to. Sometimes it's because we're very, very caught up. Other times it's because we're also not very, very clear on it. So some of the patterns that you might see repeatedly in these children, for you to be able to make an easier diagnosis, it could be about them struggling. Sometimes you find that they struggle in many ways, um, not just with one person, not just at a certain time. If you ask them in the morning, in the night, you would most likely get the same response. If it was me that asked them, or if it was a favorite teacher, you'd most likely get the same feedback that you're getting. In that instance, that child is not able to outdo themselves, which means that they most likely have not learned that concept, or that they are not very, very conversant with it. And you if you also have a child in your environment who is eager to work and everything, but every time they try, they still don't get it right. So those children in this instance won't stop trying. They will continue to try, but they just most likely will not give you the results. You also have to take that into cognizance. And then another one could be that the child had the skill, they had it, and then they regress. That is one of the situations that we as teachers face a lot when children kind of like go for holidays, particularly like the summer holidays. When they get back, all the things they could do before they left, they have regressed because they have not practiced it, either because they did not get to a point of mastery with it, or they did not even check it at all in the course of the holiday, and so they have forgotten. So they need to kind of like relearn. Only that if they had learned it the first instance, it would be easier for them to relearn it again and to be able to present what it is that we want. And when another sign to look out for is the child wants to do it, but they get frustrated, in the in the process of doing it. That tells you that this child is willing, but they are not able. Inability at that point in time is usually chalked down to learning differences. And then, how do you know when it is defiance? That child will do it with their favorite auntie, but not with their teacher, or not with their mothers. Or the child is able to do it in the morning, but in the night. There's some children that will say, I don't write ABC in the night. you know that is definitely what it is. Are they able to write it? Yes. Are they writing it? No. Why? Because they have one reason or the other. And I also have that. Sometimes people talk to me and I'm like, my mouth is tired. It's defiance. I'm not going to respond to you because my mouth is tired. So if you want me to respond, you come tomorrow. So it's not that I'm not able to respond, and it's not that it's going to take me a while. It's just that I'm just not going to respond because I don't want to. So it's more like a don't want to situation. And in some instances, when the children are able to, oops, sorry, when the children are able to, when the children are able to, what's the word now? To figure out what you're bringing, they already would come up with a tantrum or a reason to upset you or to upset themselves to prevent you from getting them to do it. Or even when you now succeed at it, then you find that they have full blown resistance. So I have some case studies here, but I think we'll come back to it in a bit. It's about us identifying which one it is. Is it defiance? Is it delay? Is it a learning challenge? For instance, we'll come back to this in a bit because I want to quickly catch up with what we have here. So now, when you've identified these things, because like we said, diagnosis is just one part of it that you have to get right. But getting the diagnosis right and not doing anything afterwards does not improve the situation. It just makes the process a repeat for that child until they get to the point where they're frustrated enough not to want to do anything, or they're um, they are settled enough in their ways to know that if I do this, then I'm going to get away with it. And either way, that's not good for the child. So as a parent, as a teacher, how do you respond effectively? There are very many ways to respond, but I have highlighted 5 here. And the 5 that I have here is um, you maintain your boundaries. Like Miss Ina said earlier, she says that a child is neurodivergent. I'm not saying it verbatim now, but what I took away was that a child is neurodivergent doesn't mean that you allow them to get away with just anything that they want to do. And that would apply in the instance of the learning challenge, learning difference. In that instance, that child does not know, it doesn't mean I'm going to say, oh, you know what, just close your book and go home. We're going to go a few steps along the way. We're going to, like I said earlier, we'll chunk it down, and when we go a few steps along the way, we will most likely get there. It will take us a bit longer, But instead of expecting the child to take all three steps, we'll most likely take one and then I'll finish up the other and then we'll call it a day. Then tomorrow I'm going to present it again and expect the child to do take two steps and I will still finish up. And then on the third day, we're trying to do the third step together. By the fifth day, the child is most likely going to take all the three steps on their own. And because this is also a way to respond to all of them, you have to stay curious. What's happening? Why is this happening? So whenever the behavior is coming, regardless of what you think is the cause or the reason, you need to say no so that you know that you do not agree with that behavior that is you're seeing, and that you have greater expectations of them. Then you have to also give the benefit of capacity, not the benefit of excuse, as you have to assume that the child wants to succeed. A number of times we as adults already have the response. We already have it. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to write. He doesn't want to read. He doesn't want to. It's not always that. And they say that if you say you're going to win, you are right. And if you also say you're not going to win, you're also right. So if you continue to tell a child, oh, he doesn't want to do, the child is just going to assume, okay, so my teacher or my mom knows that I don't want to do it. So really, I don't want to do it. So I don't want to do it. So, but if you continue to give them things to aspire to, let them know that you have expectations, and you continue to encourage them without you losing your emotions, then they will feel the urge to kind of like satisfy you, and they continue to try. And that child who continues to try is a child who will get to the finish line, as opposed to the one that has said, you know what, okay, they already said I'm sitting down, so that's it, I'm sitting down, so that's it. After all, they already know, so it's easier for me. Another thing that you also want to do in response is to reduce the demand before you reduce the expectation. Break the task down. That's what we call task analysis. What do we need to do? And that comes when you're chunking. So we want you to shut the door. It starts with stand up, walk over there to the door, hold onto the handle, shut the door, come back here, sit down. Well done. In some instances, depends on who you're working with and the level of development, you might have to chunk down to that point. And there are other instances where you say get up and shut the door. That's just it, just two steps or three. Stand up, go there, shut the door, come back, sit down. That's it. So what you see with a child is going to determine the kind of demands that you make, is going to determine the number of steps that you chunk it into, and all of that. So that way they're able to work through each step to success. All right. Then you need to track it, because what you track is only what you can improve. What you do not track, honestly, did not happen, because the only thing you would have is your memory, which also gets clouded depending on how you're feeling at that point in time. So you need to track it, and you track it by writing it down. What was the behavior you saw? Around what time did it happen? What happened before then? And then also to identify what happened afterwards. In behavior analysis, we call that the ABC: the antecedent, the behavior, and then the consequence that you give, because the consequence you give will determine whether you would have a repeat of that behavior or whether you would have a diminishing of that behavior. It determines. And the fifth one that I'm sharing here today is protecting your child's dignity in front of others. A child who is treated with honor will continue to have pride in themselves and to have confidence to continue to get up and move. A child who has been derided in public, you've already said you don't know anything, you're always talking rubbish and all of that. That child is not even going to be motivated to respond to you when you talk, and it's going to affect almost every other thing about them. So in this instance, we say correct in private and then praise the effort in public. One of the in like I said, in my classroom we have children with different uh, developmental stages and learning styles. So in my environment, um, I teach the upper elementary class at the school where I work, and the upper elementary class are children between the ages of 9 to 11. That's ultimately like year 5 and year 6. But in some instances, because inclusion is more about putting children with their age mates and addressing their needs. So in my environment, you'd most likely come in, find my children who are getting ready for common entrance exams, and also find a child that's still learning their ABCs, their sounds or their colors, because that's their learning level. So um how do I praise this child? How do I let the other students know that this child is learning differently from you? They also still matter. One of the things that we look for, because you have to look for it in order for you to find it. So one of the things, in one instance, one child in my class that was just learning the letters and the numbers, he had Down syndrome, but he was very, very good at shutting the door. He would shut the door and you would not even hear a sound. So would when that child would shut the door, we would celebrate it. So well done. And if any other child slammed the door, let them be the hottest child in that class that's getting all straight A's. We will tell them to meet Peter. Peter will show you how to shut the door. And that way, everybody, would get celebrated, and everybody's abilities would come out, and the confidence just continues to increase. So that way, the children also learn that everybody in the environment matters. So now we're going to move on. Sorry. Okay. So next, we're going to be talking about when and where to seek help. At what point should you be saying, "Oh, I need help, I need help"? Because if you are a parent, you will get agitated every time you go, "I need help, I need help." You need to identify that what you're seeing is as close to real as possible. And that's also the same thing in the classroom. So when, at what point should you be doing that, and where should you be looking for the help? Now, you will seek professional. We encourage that, so that you don't become that teacher that the head of school is saying, "Mrs. Lagbaja does not want to do anything." Every time they always complain, "This child, this child." No, 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 no. We do not want to be that teacher that is categorized as, that N word, right? That N word that's followed by NUI and other things. We don't want to be that adult. So we need to do certain things to help them understand that when I ask you to come and check this child for me, I know what I'm saying. And then that way, your wishes will be honored a lot more. So you want to do it when the pattern, that thing that you see with that child that you tell to put on their shoe and they scream and they throw themselves to the ground and everything, if it is becoming consistent, not a one-off thing, because everybody can have a bad mood, right? And so when it is consistent, it happened the first time, it happened the second time, and across different settings. Across different settings means it happens in the classroom, right? And it also happened along the corridor, or it happened even on the playground, when the child wants to get on the swing and you say, "No, wait for Peter to get on the swing because Peter got there before you." Then the child does that. That's a different setting from what you saw, and you want to observe it for not a few months as in the whole term. Oh, no, it's about 3, 4, 5 weeks. It depends on what it is, really, because some of them you will see repeatedly in the course of days, others you might not see. So you want to like I said earlier, because you're tracking it, you can identify that this thing has happened before, it happened in this place, and this was what happened. That way you're able to collate it and see it in real time. Another instance where you want to begin to go like, there's something happening here and I need somebody to come and check it, is when the gap of your child and their age peers is widening. So their learning is becoming a great differentiation where they are so far from their peers. And other times that you also want to do it is when your intervention, either at home or in the classroom, is not changing the situation. Even though you're making the effort, you're putting structures in place, but it does not appear to be getting better, then it might be something that is a bit over you at that point in time. And so you need somebody who is specialized in that area to come in and do the observation so that the diagnosis can be got right, and also the next step of activities to or intervention can be put in place. And then other times you're looking and you're like, there's something not right here. You really can't figure it out, but you just continue to feel it. At that time, you might not necessarily need professional help, but you need somebody else who knows you and who knows the child to come in and just take a look and tell you, do you really think that, is it me, or is there something not sitting right? As parents and teachers, if you allow your instinct to do its work, you will find that almost anytime you have a gut instinct about, or gut feeling about what a child is doing or not doing, if you were to check it, you'll find that it usually holds water. So if you find that that is there, then you also want to get it checked. So where would you start if you now decide that, okay, there's something not quite right here, and I think that we should do something about it? It depends on the age you're dealing with, right? It could be a pediatrician, developmental pediatrician, or a medical doctor, because they have been they've been they're able to run some tests and do a diagnosis because they have the manual that they've been trained on, the DSM-5, or a child psychologist could also do it for formal evaluation, because the set of tools that they would run, observation, questionnaires, and everything with the parent or the teacher, and the teacher, to identify certain things that would happen consistently. Then a behavior analyst is when a formal evaluation has been done, the behavior analyst is able to identify, observe to identify the function of the behavior, and they're able to now put certain steps for intervention in place. And in some instances, when it's not necessarily behavioral only, if it's tends towards academics or sometimes social interaction, then the school guideline or the Montessori guideline, both of them are the same, because Montessori is just another, like a curriculum and all of that. For that, that you can also check there, that for a child who is age 9, what are the expectations? What are they supposed to be able to do? What should their milestones be? And that you get it. So you can say this child is within the milestone, this child falls back, or this child falls forward within the milestone manual, and then you're able to do it. And then there are also the speech or the occupational or educational therapist, depends on what it is. If it is your child speaking or articulating or comprehension, then we might say the speech therapist, or the speech professional they're able to identify that much better. And in occupational therapy, does a child understand what comes next? Are they able to do things, practical things, like what they call the activities of daily learning or daily life skills, things that they have to do repeatedly. And in the instance that it's with the academics, then you're going to need the educational therapist in that instance. So, what are while we're saying all that, okay, so let's quickly go back to this one. We will most likely only take one. Let me see which one would you like us to take? Please indicate in the group quickly so that we will go with the one that has the most votes. 1, 2, 3, or 4. I'm not seeing anything. Moderator, are you able to see?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let me know which one has the most votes. Okay, I think there are three ones there.
I'm seeing one.
1, 1, 1. Okay.
Yeah.
1, 1, 1 is a meta one. So we'll do the one. Case study 1. Tolu is age 7. Now, Tolu refuses to write his spelling words every single night, even after he has been shown how to hold a pencil correctly multiple times. He's able to recite the same words perfectly out loud and loves being read to. What do you think is the situation there? Is it defiance? Is it delay? Is it learning difference? What do you think it is? Who's going to try for us? We have 1 minute for that try. Muslim Girls Talk. I'm sorry, I missed your name. What's your name, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Baraka.
Baraka, okay. If nobody says anything, you're the one going to take this.
Ma'am?
You're the one going to field it if nobody says anything. Okay, so we see delay,
Okay.
learning difference. Uh-huh. What else could it be? Defiance, all right. Okay. Okay. So let us see. The child refuses to write the spelling words every single night, even though he has been shown how to hold the pencil correctly multiple times. But this child is able to recite the same words perfectly out loud, and he loves being read to. It could be any of the three, like we have said. Um, but it most likely is not defiance, because remember that it shows that the child wants to do work. Could it be that the child is either not able to hold onto the pencils properly to write? Could it be that the child does not have the confidence to do the writing? Could it be that if the child will do the writing, the mother will shout and say, "No, that's not it. Erase it, erase it, erase it." You know, um, stepping out of this now, you know that one thing that I have found to be a no-no is erasing a child's work. When you erase a child's work, I find that you erode the child's confidence and motivation to continue. If a child's work has to be erased, I believe the child should do the erasing themselves. Try it. If you find that your student has done something and they haven't got it right, ask them to just go to the next line and redo it. And go to the next line and redo it. And go to the next line and redo it. That way, they're even able to see the errors that they made so that they don't repeat it. But if you have erased it, then it's not there for them anymore to see which one they did that you said is not the correct one. And that also is in addition to the confidence that gets eroded. So, in this instance, it's most likely a it could be a delay, and it could be a what's it called, a learning difference. But either way, the child appears not to have mastered it. That's why you find that the child will do the one they have mastered very well more often, and they also would enjoy it. And they would resist the one that it is that they have not mastered. So I believe these materials will be shared with you, so you can take the time to go through the others. I will share the responses somewhere in there, even though it's not on this slide at this time. So let's move on now. We're talking about tips and tricks for you to use at home and in the classroom, as the case may be. Tools, some of the ones you can start with. And like I said earlier, thank you so much, Miss Ina. You did quite a bit of work for me here, so it's just easy for me to ride on the protocol that you laid down. She had spoken about the visual schedule. The visual schedule is one where, for instance, you and I, we both know that when on a Monday morning, we're going to get up and go to work. Before we go to work, we know we're going to take our bath. We know that we're going to pack our lunch. We know that we're going to wear our clothes and put on our shoes and then get out of our house. But these are children. Either they have not learned the process fully, or they are not sure of what comes next. They're still mixing it up because perhaps they have not hit the 10,000 hour practice, right? But where you have a visual schedule to show them that first thing you do is when you get up from bed and everything, grab your towel and go into the bathroom. Of course, you're building on the protocol that the child already knows, that when you have your towel and you're going to the bathroom, then you're going to take your bath. If not, then you're going to chunk it down some more. So the visual schedule is that, like our to-do list that shows what you're going to do in the course of that day, and it usually shows it in order, chronological order. What do you do first? You're not going to put on your shoes before you pick your towel to go into the bathroom. So it has to come in that way. When you do that, from my own experience, it's half of your work done, because like they say, once you have seen something, then you can do. You cannot really, it's difficult to achieve what you have not seen. You and I can see that process because we have done it repeatedly. It has become an unconscious competencies. That's not the situation with our children. And sometimes they think, oh, this thing is just not going to end. It's just not going to end. But by the time they see the processes and they see what comes next, then they know that that fear of going into bathroom is going to end because I'm going to come out and then I'm going to get dressed and I'm going to have breakfast that I like to do. So those motivations, you've thrown in a number of things in that instance, and that visual schedule tends to kind of like be a motivator to them as well as a guide. And it's another one that you could use is also the first then board. That's also the visual schedule showing which one does have comes first, like I said, and all of that. So they're basically the same thing. Another one is a choice board. The choice board is where you have the opportunity for them to choose which one they want to do first. For instance, it could even be on a Monday morning. A child is going to school. In some instances, some children have breakfast before they take a bath. If you're able to accommodate that within your own schedule, then you want to give them that option. Because what I can tell you free of charge is that when you give a child or even an adult an option of things that are relatively close and will not topple, one will not topple the other, but they will kind of like hey, what's that English now? They will kind of like promote the next one, then they would be a lot more interested in doing it. Because if I feel that I made that choice and I feel obliged in some ways, that I feel obliged to finish it because I chose it. You didn't force it on me. So it usually works. And then another one is the visual timer. Like I said, the visual timer is for transitions, letting me know that this is the amount of time I have to quickly cover it. And that within after this time, that thing that I don't want to do will end and I can move on to the next one. And it could also signal that that thing that I love doing will end and there's another one that I don't like to do. So I need to quickly get myself ready because after that one that I don't like to do, the third one is something that I like to do again. So that motivation is there. It helps me to identify that I need to quickly put in more energy so that I can finish on time and finish well, and to also move on to the next thing. There's also the ABC log. Like I said earlier, when you're trying to keep data on what exactly is this behavior, and to identify it, to be able to diagnose it and to come up with solutions to address it, you want to keep the ABC log. The ABC log is the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequence. Those are the three core things in behavior analysis. Antecedent is what happens before the behavior. Nobody, no human does anything just like that. Sometimes you say, oh no, you just started screaming for no reason. There's a reason. There was a reason. You just did not catch it. The reason could be tangible, it could be intangible. The reason could be external or internal. So when we say that there's no reason, then what we have said is we have shut the door to finding out what exactly the situation is. And if we're not able to do that, then we will most likely not get the right treatment for it. So we'll just continue to go round and round until the child gets frustrated enough to either become violent or become quiet and they don't respond at all. Either way, it's not a good one for us. So the antecedent happens before the behavior, and the behavior itself. What exactly is the behavior? Because the behavior, if you're able to identify what exactly the function of behaviors change. Sometimes I could be tapping my head. You say that, oh, she's tapping her head because she doesn't want to. Am I having a headache? Is that why I'm tapping my head? Do I need rhythm so that I can spell what I'm spelling? Where is that why I'm tapping? I mean, a number of us have seen Akila and the Bee, where she's spelling and she's tapping her lap. She could be tapping her lap for that reason. She could have been tapping her lap because she had an itch. She could have been tapping her lap because it was hurting her. She could have been tapping her lap because she wanted everybody to keep quiet or for the teacher to get irritated and move on to the next person. So whatever it is that is the reason for the tapping is what we in behavior analysis call the function of the behavior. If you're able to identify talk exactly what the behavior is, then you will most likely figure out the function, because the function is going to determine the consequence that you give. So that child tapping her laps, if it is for an itch, then you want to tell her, oh, just rub it quickly and then move on. If it is because she wants to distract the others, then you want to get something else done. If it is because she wants the rhythm, you can tell her to kind of like click her finger without making noise like this. It could just be like, that clock it sign. It could be any one of those as well that does not distract or disturb the next person. And so the consequence, like I said earlier, whatever consequence you give is going to determine whether that behavior will be repeated or whether the behavior will diminish. So there always has to be, and you can do it just in 3 lines, and then identify what the pattern is. When you identify the pattern, you're able to figure out what to do with it next. And then there's some additional tools. There's a break card, which helps them know that this work that you're doing that appears to be forever, you will get to have a break. And don't show that you want them. Don't indicate your break by throwing up your pencil or just sitting down and not doing anything. Pick up the break card and show me. Before we start the work, we'd have identified how many times can you use a break card. For instance, if the child is just beginning or they're still very young, you don't want to use the same break card 10 times. No, you want to have 10 break cards. So they use one, it's gone. They can see that I have only 9 left. They may not be able to tell you, but they see that it's reducing. So that is one of the ways that the processes that we go through to help them understand that there's a limit to things, there are consequences to things, and all of that. And honestly, it usually affects that behavior. Then there's social stories. Sometimes they don't understand what they're supposed to do. So you tell a story of what's that one? Like the boy who cried wolf, or Wee Willie Wink who runs through the town upstairs and downstairs, or Jack and Jill went up the hill. So you want to tell them when you're going to fetch a pail of water, you want to be careful of the shoes you're going to wear. You want to be careful. You want to make sure that you don't put it too much so that it doesn't tip over and you don't fall off. So a social story is a guide to exactly how they're supposed to do something. And there's some other technicalities to it. But if you get a professional to write a social story, you will find that it will tell you next. And because your child has heard it so many times, the same way it is when they watch Spider-Man, where they're jumping and doing all of this and all of that, is the same way they listen to the social stories and they want to do what it is that they have heard in it. Then the sensory tools depends on, like I said, what the function of the behavior is. Sometimes when you find them tapping like this, it's not because they want to make noise or distract or whatever. It is because the fingers may be itching. There may be some sensations in the fingers that they need to get rid of. If you have sensory
Thank
tools
you
that
so
they
much,
can
Ma.
hold on to.
Thank you for sharing these gems with us. Yes, yes, a little bit behind schedule, so would
Okay.
appreciate if you would wrap up
Can
in
I
like 3 minutes.
can I have just 3 minutes? Please give me
Yes,
3 minutes so that I can quickly do this, because I think this part is also very important. Our
Yeah,
mindset
thank
makes a
you.
world of difference. Sometimes we make decisions based on our mindset and we don't check things. So we need to work on our mindset as well. We need to understand that when our child or our student is doing something, they're not doing it to us, or doing it in spite of us. They're doing it because of what is happening with them. Even when my child is not listening to me, it could be that that child wanted attention in some ways and I did not give it. So instead of saying, why is this child doing this to me, ask, what is this child trying to tell me from this behavior? And then it's not appropriate for us to say, oh, the child is just difficult, the child is just spoiled, the child is this. No, sometimes they are not having a good time. So you want to be able to identify. So before you jump to a conclusion, you need to change certain ways you do things. Instead of saying, oh, just passing judgment, be curious. Why are they doing it? Then you need to separate the behavior from the child. What you did was very naughty. What you did was not appropriate. Not you are very naughty. They're two different things, and I'm sure you can figure out why. Then regulate yourself before you respond. If you respond like Coach Sonia said yesterday, you're shouting, you will not get it. So you need to calm yourself down so that you can speak, so that the child can hear you, or you can do things and the child can get it, because they don't mind looking at you at that time, because you're not looking like a dragon with fire bursting out of their nostrils. Then you also need to practice perspective, taking that on purpose, and release the need for a fast fix. Don't be in a hurry to jump in and do it for them. Let them go through it themselves and let them ask for help. Let them learn to ask for help. And it's the fact that they're able to ask for help does not mean that you'll always respond and help them when they are not able to. That is also a motivation for them to go a step further the next time. Then exchange and then give yourself grace as well. because you are not always in the right frame of mind, but you have to still accommodate and do things differently. So your job as a parent, as a teacher, as a caregiver is not to guess what it is that you are seeing with your child. It is for you to look, to ask questions, to be curious, to document, and to figure out which one it is. And you will only be able to do that if you practice some of the things that we have said here, if you're keeping records, and if you are willing to give the grace to that child and also to yourself. So that's where we did. Thank you so much for the extended time. And so thank you.
Thank you so much for this insightful session. Honestly, I couldn't have spent my time, my evening somewhere else. I'm very glad to have you here, ma'am. Thank you so much. So
so
we'll be
much.
taking only 2 to 3 questions because of time. If you have questions, please raise your hand or type your question in the chat box. While we are doing that, let's take some time to,
Let's
appreciate some
take
of
the
our sponsors.
questions. No, let's take the
Okay.
questions. We'll take
Okay.
the
So,
advert
okay.
after. Thanks.
All right, ma'am. So we have someone raising their hand. Please go on, unmute yourself and go on with your question.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am, for this insightful session. May God continue to enrich you knowledge-wise. Amen. So my question is, though it comes with an observation and also a question. So I observed that probably only me, that most of we parents usually correct our children in front of others, which I grew up in that manner too. My, usually corrected in front of others. So I thought it was normal. But with what you have said tonight, I could relate it with my child's behavior. Probably that's why she's acting out in some instances. So what can we do in a situation whereby the child is actually guilty, maybe with her friends, or she's actually guilty of what they've said about her, and you have to be fair on the second child that is being affected or is being hurt by our actions. How can we go about it?
Okay. Is that your question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Is there another question so that I would respond to them together?
Yes, please. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, my name is Tolu. I just want
Okay.
to draw your attention to this character in children. Possibly you can chip in on it about pretense in children. You know, we have children that have double standard, even right from childhood. I have these twins. Whenever the girl is being picked, whenever the boy is being picked, the girl will start crying. Why you're not, drawing attention to that character, and you decided to like, oh, okay, let me drop the boy and let me quickly attend to. There was a day I just caught her laughing. I was talking about this character at the age of, I think, 1+. So what about pretense in children? I know it's also another form of character. What do you think about it?
Okay.
And how can parents identify that at the early stage and act on it? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Is there another one? All right. So
There's a question in the chat. I think we'll just
okay.
take that as the third question.
All right. So let me quickly respond to the first two. So Rihanna, I believe it was Rihanna. You had spoken about we can't do we can't do more than we know. And a number of times what we see or what we experience, if we are not deliberate about determining how we're going to respond to things, that thing that we experience is what is already in our repertoire, and that is what you will do if you have to pick what's that word now? They say something, the one that exists, so to speak. Like if you can't be with the one you love the one that you're with. When you experience being corrected in front of others, I'm sure you can still remember clearly how you felt, and it's not always a good thing. Now, in the instance of two of your students who someone has done something to the other person, there's a possibility, or there's always a way for you to sort out the situation without saying, oh, you didn't do it right. You could just say, oh, you know what we're going to do. And particularly if it happens repeatedly with that child and you see that she's already beginning to react negatively to your redirection, what I would do, what I might advise you to do is say, oh, around here, we don't hit one another. You know, you touch your friend. If you want to say something, you touch them lightly, or this or that or that. So let's all be nice to one another, okay? And then I could say generally, okay, everybody give another person a hug, at that point in time, and it ends. But has it truly ended? No, because I will find a time to call that child to ask, why did you do that to your friend? What would you do differently next time? Next time you had a reason or you don't have a reason. That way you have prepared that child. You about say you have bola shiri, and so the child feels, oh, Miss Rihanna understands me. And because Miss Rihanna did not throw me under the bus yesterday, I also will try to do something to make Miss Rihanna happy. And that's really what we want at the end of the day, for the children to get the lesson, to learn the lesson and to move on, not for them to feel like, oh, they have been derided. It's not every time that we want to say, oh, you did wrong and you did right. It doesn't make a difference. If another child wants to hear that the other child did wrong, then there's a problem with that child as well that we need to fix. And that brings me to the second one about from Miss Tolu, where she spoke about child pretending. So a child was telling me something just yesterday about what they remembered at no, I said something, and so I remember, but I could not have remembered it because I was just 2.5 years old. And I said, well, a lot of my memories I discovered because I would have some discussions with my older sister, and I'll say, oh, remember when we were here that time and this happened, and I was wearing this dress and you're wearing that dress. And my sister would always say, we're always just forming things, Sha. But there was this day we were with my mom and we're talking, and my mom sat and was looking at me because, and I, we said, oh, why are you, mommy, am I right or what? And she said, I'm wondering how you can say that, because those things that I said, there were actually some um, big situations in the family then. And she immediately calculated and she said, you were not a year and a half yet at that point in time. How do you remember so well? I don't know how I remember so well, but I remember so well. Am I remembering the things right now so well? No, but those ones I remember very, very well. And if it is, that means that our behavior, our ways form. There are also evidences to show that behavior and things like that form while the child is in the mother's belly, and all of that. So the child who is pretending, there could be many reasons, but one thing that I would think that you need to feel as that child's cop is to help the child feel comfortable. Let them have their turn. Maybe they're doing those things for attention. Maybe they're doing it because they feel like, oh, you only do this with that and you don't do it with me. So let each child have their turn. If you will build that for starters, then it would make a difference. And then you would not always start with a particular child, you interchange it. And when you're interchanging, you want to talk about it that today I'm going to carry Peter first. Today I'm going to carry Jake first. So that they know. I say, yesterday I carried Jake first. So today I'm going to carry Peter first. And things begin to align in them, because if you don't point it out repeatedly and help them understand it carefully, a child does not remember that yesterday you carried me first. It is how I feel, whatever I feel, that is my reality. So we need to work towards that. So that's just one of the steps. Another thing that you can do is to have them earn it. Say, oh, Peter, you finished your work on time. Good job. Now give me a double high five. Then you move to the next person. That is if you are sure that both Peter and Jake can do the work. If Peter can do it and Jake cannot do it, then you cannot use that as a reward, because you already know that you are judging Jake by the ability of a cat of a crocodile to climb a tree, which is going to be difficult, and most likely they would not achieve on time, if they achieved it at all. So I'm not sure what the third question is. Can somebody share that with me, please? Third question, please.
That is, I have a 10-year-old girl. that struggles with maths but good with spelling. When asked initially on what's the issue with maths, she said it's difficult. How do I go about helping her?
Okay, this is quite interesting because just a few days, 2 days, just yesterday, I was in a place where a parent was telling me that the child always no, the child said maths is difficult. And the parents, both the parents were there, and they said, but this child always gets like 95% in math. And the child who says math is difficult but they love English usually gets like 78, 85 in English. And they say math is difficult. First and foremost, who did they hear saying it? In my class, my students, they have, it's an automatic. Oh, math is too hard, I don't like math. When we start doing the math, it begins to change. So we want to identify, is it a reality or is it a fallacy? That's on the first hand. If it is a reality, then we want to figure out ways to change it so that we teach, like Miss Ness said, we teach the way the child learns as opposed to teaching the way we want to teach them. We figure out there's some children that are that are kinesthetic. There's some children that are visual. Are you teaching them with a style or in the style that they're able to take away, that style that's memorable to them enough to rejig their memory and to get them to pay better attention and to also encourage them to want to practice that thing repeatedly until they get it right. So it could be any of those, but one thing you want to do is every time the child says it, you want to reassure them. Then you also want to do simple things with them. So if I were the teacher or the parent in that instance, I will start off by saying, oh, let's do some math. The child's going to go, oh, no, it's really hard. I don't want to do math. And say, 1 plus 1, 2 plus 2, 2 plus 1, 3 plus 1, 4 plus 1. Simple, 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 simple things that the child can do. And when they do it, I'm going to celebrate and go, wow, And then maybe when we've done about 5 or 10, I'll say, but didn't you say that math was hard? So now the child is seeing that math is not hard. That part that may be hard is a part that I have not understood yet. So can we address the issue for what it is? So you need to do that to build that child's confidence and then to go slowly in the areas where they're having challenges, or to just generally pull them aside and reintroduce those concepts to them in ways that they're able to comprehend. And this is something that we should do across board, whether it's something that's academic or whether it's behavioral or whether it's something that's hands-on and like an activity of daily living. We want to step back, go back to the basics. Now take baby steps, calling their attention to it. This is math, oh, and you say you don't like math. This is math, oh, yet you say math is hard, and you're telling me the answer like that. And then you also feign ignorance. So when that child will now say to you 7 plus 5, you now start counting 7 plus 5. The child will now tell you, but it's 12. You say, oh, you're right. So the child is going to feel like, oh, everybody can forget every now and then. Yes, and everybody truly can forget. So you want to help that child build their confidence, and in doing that, you will build their motivation to try a little bit more and try a little bit more until they get it right. So I hope that answers your questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you for answering the questions and for the wonderful presentation you gave us this night. We are really grateful for that. And once again, thank you to Mrs. Inme for sharing your evening with us. Thank you to all the parents in attendance. We are really grateful to have you here. And we hope that you've learned one thing or the other. And that we also hope that you will share with your friends and families. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a child. And PTS is a community effort, so you can help us reach more families. Thank you once again for sharing your evening with us. Tomorrow at the same time, 7:30 p.m. Tomorrow would be our the third day of the virtual event. And on Thursday, we'll be having the virtual village. And finally, on Saturday, we'll be having the on-site events. If you have not registered, this is the best time to do so because the seats would be, all the seats will be taken soon. So you don't want to miss out, this amazing gems, this amazing speech from our speakers. You don't want to miss out on even more on Saturday. Please go and register now if you've not done so. Thank you so much once again to everybody for joining us tonight. And again, I would like to appreciate our sponsors for helping us, for supporting us for this Parenting Teen Summit this year.
Thank you very much.
Coach Amina, do you have anything to say?
Oh, no, thank you all for waiting till this time. I know we took extra time, but thank you all so much for being here. Looking forward to seeing those of us in Lagos on Saturday. God bless you all. Have a wonderful night.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Right? But what if I told you there's a secret downside to summer? But what if I told you... So, summer's coming up. Great, right? But what if I told you there's a secret downside to summer? While your child is living their best life over the summer vacation, they're actually forgetting everything they learned in school. Well, not everything. Over the 9 months of the school year, your child learns all kinds of things. But over the summer, children on average lose about 2.5 months worth of that learning. That's almost 30% of what they learned. And that's just when it comes to math. Think about all the other things they're forgetting. This is what we call summer brain drain. And we have just a solution. At Brain Ability Place, we keep your children engaged over the summer and turn that brain drain into brain gain. Through fun and engaging brain training exercises, we help make sure that your child is ahead of the curve going into the next school year. These exercises can be done one-on-one at our center or online from wherever your summer travels may take you. Our cognitive skill training strategy will help your child improve their higher thinking ability, focus, and memory. We can do all this while still leaving more than enough time for your child to live their best life over the summer. Visit our website to get in touch, to learn more and find out if Brain Ability Place is the right solution for your child.
Welcome to Debo Africa, modern healthcare built by women for women. We get it. Life can be hectic and unpredictable. We know what it's like to push back a much needed health check for months because of family or work or because you just haven't found the right healthcare providers. Debo Africa was founded by African women because we understand the unique needs and challenges they face, and we believe that all African women deserve access to better healthcare, no matter who we are. With our virtual medical consultations, we have bridged the gap between your busy life and your healthcare. At Debo Africa, you can easily access expert medical advice from our community of Debo doctors whenever you need it, without compromising on the quality of care. Join us on our mission to empower African women and transform healthcare.
₦100, 200 naira, 300 naira. Mama Nkechi, oya take.
Wetin I wan carry 300 naira do?
Mama Nkechi, every day me and you go comot house go hustle for market. If anything do us, who go dey our back?
So na 300 naira one day our back.
You never hear of Goxi Microinsurance, the first licensed specialized microinsurance company for Nigeria, where they give cheap insurance cover with as low as 300 naira. Goxi Microinsurance get insurance products like Goxi Cooperative Welfare Scheme, Goxi My Business, Goxi Agric Loan Protection, and others wey go give us peace of mind.
Oya, make we start now.
Goxi Microinsurance no dey give loan, but we go help you carry your wahala with our insurance package.
For more information, make you visit them office for Edward and Valeria Plaza, 107 Obafemi Awolowo Way, Ikeja, or make you call 0802-314-0939 and 0815-287-9591. Terms and conditions dey. Goxi Microinsurance. Small money, big help.
Welcome to GPS, Guided Path School, where we are provided with first-class education that caters to intellectual growth and physical well-being in a morally, spiritually, and culturally enriched environment, using modern teaching strategies and aids that propel learners above boundaries. Our core values are the high five: faith, focus, fitness, friendship, and future.
I am Abdulmuta Alpelo, and the name of my school is Guided Path Private School.
We have different programs to achieve this. At GPS, we are groomed to be well-rounded children. So, apart from core academics, we have time to play and do extracurricular activities, which include karate, young engineers, swimming, way with words, and many more.
My name is Ali Asana. My best food is jollof rice and beans.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Guided Path School, and I am Mrs. Lasaki, the school director. We intend to take your precious jewels and educate them and also teach them sound Islamic values.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abimbola Yusuf, and I'm the mom of Amira and Abdulazim. GPS has been very impactful in the lives of children. They are very well-rounded in all aspects. Spiritually, they are very sound. Academically, they are very sound.
GPS.
So, summer's coming. Great, right? But what if I told you there's a secret downside to summer? While your child is living their best life over the summer vacation, they're actually forgetting everything they learned in school.